All right, let's get a sense of what's happening with some markets now. We did get about, after 2 sessions of positive closes, the end of the week, we see the local stock market ended lower as investors opted to lock in profits on bellwether stocks following the recent run-up in share prices. Specifically, the all-share index, that dipped by about 0.4%. That's for the week last week, undermined by loss in MTN Nigeria. That dropped about 12.3%. So we see there red, that's the color for the all-share index. Last week, 0.42% down. We see the trading volume there was quite lower than the previous week, 1.73 billion, down 2.1%, and we see value that was down about 7.8%. Let's look at the sectoral performance now. We see the consumer goods counter, that was the lone loser last week, with the banking counter shining 4.19%. Even with that big move, we didn't get a positive close for the week. And also we see another financial services counter, insurance, up 8.92%, 0.30% for the oil and gas counter. And at the end of the day, investors will be wondering, how do they beat inflation? You know, at this time where we're seeing the kind of inflation we're seeing right now, it's very stubbornly high. Let's talk to Mr. Olatunde Amolegbe. He's the MD, CEO, Arthur Stevens Management Limited, joining us via Zoom. Great to have you on the show.
Thank you, ladies. Thanks for having me.
Right. So, decision day, we're getting that tomorrow from the MPC. We saw a massive 400 basis points hike at the last meeting. What are you expecting?
Well, I'm not expecting them to be as hawkish as they were the last time. But I still suspect that they will probably continue to move the rate, maybe slightly less aggressively. But in as much as the intention is to continue to target inflation, and inflation levels is at what, 31% or thereabout at the moment. So we're not anywhere near what they intend to achieve regarding that. So I think that they will continue to move the rate. Of course, they will also be cautious as to the impact the rate might be having on growth. The impact it might be having on manufacturing companies whose cost of production will now have risen significantly due to the cost of financing. So they have to keep an eye on that while still, doing what they can to battle inflation. As we continue to say, tackling inflation has to be a two-pronged approach. There has to be the monetary side, which is what they are trying to tackle, and of course the structural side, which includes doing other things that are not necessarily monetary in nature. Taking care of inflation, taking care of the FX side of things, and structural issues also needs to be taken care of in order for us to get where we intend to be regarding inflation levels.
Right.
But regarding the FPC, I expect an hawkish move, but maybe not as aggressively as the last time.
Right, and we keep talking about investors, trying to beat inflation at this time. That's been happening since 2022. Talk to me about how investors in Nigeria can shield their portfolios against this kind of inflation we're seeing.
Well, we've seen, and empirical evidence have shown that traditionally, in high inflation environments, it is always better to err on the side of equities, because empirical evidence have shown that over time, equities tend to beat inflation, and I think that has been true for equity investors in Nigeria for the last 1.5 years, and I suspect that will possibly continue to be true, at least until the point where we get inflation rates down to maybe levels looking like 20% or 19%. So if I were an investor, I would continue to look at good, fundamentally strong stocks and position there in the hope that the returns they make help me to beat inflation. Of course, an investor also has to continue to pay attention to the likely impact of the increase in interest rates on equity prices, because obviously those two markets have an inverse relationship. So as you see interest rates continue to rise, it is very likely that participation and the sort of bullishness you are seeing in the equities market will start to subside as people start to shift assets from the equities market to the fixed income market. But I mean, we're probably not gotten to the point where the fixed income market will be able to compete with equities regarding the ability to beat inflation. So if for our investor, I will continue to side with equity for now.
For now,
until the point where we get to levels, reach the levels that can compete.
Okay. All right. Another issue right now, we're seeing, top central banks have been accumulating a lot of gold at this time. See, the central bank, most of the top central banks, they bought about 1,037 tons of gold. People's Bank of China added roughly 390,000 tons of gold in February, and gold hit a new high. That was last week, hovering around the $2,162 level. So talk to me, is this a cue for investors to start looking towards gold at this time?
If you're a long-term investor and you're looking for an asset that has long duration, that have low risk, and you are looking to diversify your portfolio, then gold might not be a bad idea for you to hold. You agree with me that we're in a world of crisis, that there's crisis everywhere. There's the Ukraine-Russia war, there's Gaza. The world is generally battling inflation. So investors will central banks typically will look at all of this and want to take some precaution against reducing their exposure to fiat currencies, fiat reserve currencies such as the US dollar and the euro. So, and that is why you are probably seeing some of the central banks moving some of their assets, particularly long-term assets, towards gold, because gold reduce the risk that could come from the weakening of some of these fiat currencies.
Right.
All right. So if the US dollar is weakened and the bulk of your reserves is in the US dollars, then you are exposed.
All right.
But if you move some of these assets or diversify some of these assets into gold, then at least it protects you and gives you the kind of diversification you're looking for.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Olatunde Amolegbe, MD CEO After Stevens Asset Management Limited. It was great having your perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, Lady. Thanks for having me.
All right. So we'll keep tracking the price of gold for this week and the local boss right here. But that does it for Business Morning. I'm going to hand things over now to the Sunrise Daily team. Thank you.